He was drafted by his hometown Orioles, and he played 12 years in the major leagues. His dad, Cal Ripken Sr., became the first in Major League history to manage two sons on the same team at the same time. He finished his career with a .987 fielding percentage at second base. That is still tied for 28th all time. Billy and his brother Cal are four sets of brothers to play shortstop and second base together on the same team. He and Cal formed Ripken Baseball, owning minor league teams. They have youth events all across the country, do an outstanding job with youth baseball in the United States. You can see him on MLB Network. I love when he is on. We were talking about earlier, when he is in the studio breaking stuff down, man, I learn something every single time. He is outstanding, and he's also on MLB Network radio as well. Known for his all-out play and no-holds-barred approach, please welcome to the Hot Stovers, Bill Ripken.
I think I'm going to start with getting into what I want to rap to you guys about. The first Homer stories are good, and I'll throw my first Homer story into the mix. It's in Kansas City. I don't remember the temperature, but it was Bud Black. It was 1 ball, 2 strikes, fastball down and in. I got him. I didn't hit that many, but I'm hitting second that day in Kansas City. Junior is hitting third, my brother. And when I hit it, I knew I hit it good. But I didn't know, because I didn't hit that many. But I heard this screaming from the on-deck circle, and I go, damn, that dude hit some homers. He knows. I got him. So you run around the bases for your first home run in the big leagues. You get to shake your brother's hand at home plate. Now you get to shake your father's hand, top step of the dugout, because he was the manager of the team right there. So I bring that story to light because in this room with our student athletes, we're parents, we're coaches, and we're players. And I think my upbringing certainly hits home all the way through that. And the cool thing about senior, to me, was when you have two sons that get to the big leagues, and we had the good fortune of being that first time, and it's the only time it still happened in the history of the game that the fathers managed the two sons. How did that happen? How did that come about? Senior's ability to be direct, objective, and fair was pretty amazing. Senior told me growing up sometimes alongside Cal, he goes, you're not Cal. You can't do some of the things that he can do. Now some people get taken back by that. They say, oh, what a mean man. No, he's not mean. Junior was 6'5", 225 pounds of gift. I wasn't. And I think Dad's influence on me and Junior were different influences. I stand here today because when we talk about the Ripken name in baseball, it's a pretty good name. Right away people say Junior. I get it, the Iron Man, the Hall of Famer, Golden Boy, all of it's right, all of it's real. But if it wouldn't have been for Senior's influence on Junior, I believe Junior would have played in the big leagues. Don't know if Junior would have been the Iron Man. Don't know if Junior would be in the Hall of Fame. It was what Dad was able to do with taking that talent and motivating him and sculpting him into something really great, a Hall of Famer, because that's what he is. I, on the other hand, I don't know without Senior's influence if I would have been in the big leagues. I really don't. But his sculpting of me was different than of Junior. And he told me some valuable things along the way. Don't worry about what your big brother can do. Don't worry about what the guy down the street can do. Don't worry about that. Worry about your phone, sir. It's time for your nap.
Yeah.
Damn. Take care of yourself. You want to take a little notice of that. Take care of yourself, turn your damn phone off. So when I got drafted, I was 17 years old out of high school. I was a December birthday, and I don't think that happens anymore. I think school has to be a certain age. I'm not sure if anybody graduates 17 anymore. But when Senior did that to me, I'm loading up the car, I'm gonna drive to Bluefield, West Virginia for my first foray into minor league baseball. Take care of yourself, son. Now, you're telling a 17-year-old dude to take care of yourself. I was not the most, I was a little wild at times. So when your pops tells you going away, take care of yourself, that can mean a lot of different things. But I think in a lot of ways he was saying, okay, easy on the beer drinking, kind of settle that down, do this, do that. But it was more about really taking care of myself and not worrying about those other things. So I started thinking during my minor league days that what that meant. No matter what we do, unless you're Mike Trout, you're going to run up against somebody that's bigger, stronger, faster, better than you. Unless you're the best of the very best. And I still think Mike Trout can have the crown for a couple more years, for sure. But unless you're him, you're always going to run up against somebody a little bit bigger, a little bit better, a little bit faster. How do you deal with that? Which once again goes back to when Senior was talking to me about you're not Cal, you can't do the things he can do. He would also finish that with, but if you find you do the things you do well and you keep doing those, in most cases it's going to be good enough. You ain't going to hit the 3-run homer. But if it's first and second, nobody out, and it's a tie game, and I ask you to put a bunt down, you get him to second and third, and Big Bro hits a bullet in the gap and we score 2, I'll take that. So if you do what you can do and not worrying about anybody else, you're going to be better for it. In most cases, it's going to be good enough. Now, I go through my big league career, part of it, 5.5 years, first 5.5 years in Baltimore. I get released in 1992. I sign on with Texas as a non-rostered invitee, which the second half of my career, every camp I went to was a non-rostered invitee into camp. Yep. And I will say this, I took care of myself. There was not one camp that I ever went into with the chance to make the big league club that I did not make the big league club. And that was about taking care of yourself. It really hit me what happened when I'm in the dugout in Port Charlotte, Florida, Rangers, spring training. There's 3 utility guys as a non-rostered. There's room for 1 utility guy on the field. I'm sitting on the bench next to another utility guy. The 3rd utility guy's at home plate. That utility guy punched out. This dude goes, yeah. And I looked at him. And he goes, he punched out. And I went, yeah, I saw that. And then I sat there next to him and I started to get pissed because now if I strike out, he's doing it to me too. And then it really hit me after I went through the minor leagues. I went 5.5 years in the big leagues. I go to these spring trainings. I'm trying to make the clubs. And I realized that what Dad was telling me was don't worry about anybody else. Take care of yourself. Even if this dude celebrating him punching, and even if I went up to home plate and I'd have punched, and this guy succeeds because of my failure and that guy's failure, this guy's still going to end up a failure. Because he's not succeeding, he's not getting a gig on his own merit. He's getting a gig because 2 guys that he's competing with failed and didn't succeed. And from that day forward, every spring training I went to, every non-roster invitee I was, my attitude was such that if a guy I'm fighting for got 4 hits in a spring training game, which is hard to do in spring training, to throw 4 knocks out there, I never changed my demeanor. Because I understood in spring training that if it's a 6-week process, and if I thought I was about roster spot number 28, I had 6 spots that I wanted to get to 24. I didn't want to get to 25 because if the GM and the manager weren't quite thinking with my thought process, I didn't want to miss out. I wanted to get 1 spot further. I wanted to be 24. I wanted to be in that situation where the 8th inning, the regular everyday guy was out of the game and I'm playing in the game in the 8th inning and I turn a 6-4-3 double play that's nice to end the game. I don't care if that dude had 4 knocks before because he ain't going to run out there during the regular season every single day and be a 4-knock guy. I know that from what his resume says he is. He's the same as me but can't turn a double play. And I would fight for my job every single time. And like I said, I never not once did not make a team when I went to spring training with the idea of that. And I think that was Dad's influence and how he was real with me Not unfair. He didn't treat me and Junior exactly the same. He couldn't. We weren't the same people. So I think when you hear people talk, and Stairsy made a great point about the pinch hitter and accepting the role, and then he was real with it, and he was objective about it, and he knew himself and what he had to do to be best it was. Don't be disillusioned out there in this world of sports. When some utility guys would sit on the bench and swear they should be playing. And I'm sitting there looking at it going, no, you shouldn't. I'm looking at the same stuff you are. 1996, I'm with the Orioles. Rafael Palmeiro's playing first, Robbie Alomar's playing second, Cal's playing short, BJ Suroff's playing third. I'm sitting my ass on the bench because that's the best place for me right there. BJ went down with an ankle sprain. I played 13 days in a row. We're in the middle of a pennant run. We go 8-5 as a team. BJ comes back off the DL. I'm sitting back on the bench because I actually understood what my role was. And I did that to the best of my ability as we move forward. Couple things that's interesting about these diamond sports, softball and baseball. Team sport, yes, no doubt about it. But I think our two sports that we can talk about in this room, there is no more individual moments that can come about in team sports than what we have in baseball. When Stairsy talked about pinch hitting and hitting a home run, or just pinch hitting, it's him against that dude out there on the bump. Plain and simple. Other sports, I believe you can hide. There's a little bit of a mixture that goes on during a sport. But it's a 3-ball, 2-strike count and you're on the bump. I don't care what your rotation access is. I don't care what your spin rate is. If you don't figure out how to throw a strike number 1 and get the person out, you can't play. And if you're up at home plate, I don't care what your launch angle is. I don't care what your exit velocity is. I'd like to see a bases loaded, broken bat gork over the second baseman's head that finds grass and drives in 2 runs. I'll take that every single day as we move forward. When you're playing these sports, take it upon yourself to compete. Now, we know that game time. We know about competing in the games. What about competing in practice? Stairsy talked about swinging 500 times, right? He knew how to get better. He wanted to get better. How many times do we have practice and the coach kind of throws a drill out there, we see a couple chuckles, and then we see people go through the motion doing a drill. I challenge the players in this room to compete every single day in practice. I want to be the best practice player there absolutely is. I grew up in a house with the Golden Boy, with Junior, and the Hall of Famer and everything else. He was always better at everything that we competed in. I beat him in English darts. I'm pretty good at that. I start getting a few mixed slimmies in me and all of a sudden concentration comes in. But the idea of being around him and all the little games we used to make up and play, it was all about competition. We didn't forfeit anything. We gave nothing away. And the reason why Junior played 4 million games in a row, my man had conviction about what he wanted to do. He had perseverance through all the critics out there that said he was selfish. He never took a day off because the record meant more to him than everything else. No. Let me tell you something about Junior when he's playing. When the world was caving in on him, and you don't play 4 million games in a row without the world caving in on you from time to time. But you're sitting there and you're in an 0 for 15 slump, 0 for 16 slump, people writing bad about you, Junior selfish, Nolan Ryan's on the bump the next day. I've seen the selfish players, I played with them. They'll go into the training room and fake an injury because they don't want their 0 for 16 to turn into 0 for 20 because it's Nolan. But you could not convince my brother, the competitor that he was, that we're not better with me playing in this game. So he was willing to risk the 0 for 20 because when you're struggling and you're facing Nolan, good luck to you. But Junior would never duck that. So not a selfish bone in his body. The streak was a result of a lot of managers that wrote his name in the lineup. And a lot of players that said whenever Junior went to him and said, this is weighing heavy on me, it's weighing heavy on me, it's too much, I want to take a day off. And the pitchers would turn around and look at him and say, not on my day, you're not. I don't want to turn around and look and see somebody else play short. So all those conversations he had over the years was not about anything close to him being selfish. It was about his desire to get better every day, to grind through whatever he had to do, and to compete for his team because that was actually his job. And I don't think anybody did it better. In fact, if he was selfish, I would actually say he should have taken some days off because he might have actually had better numbers at the end of the day. He might not have been called the Iron Man. He'd be in the Hall of Fame, but he might actually have better numbers if he didn't take that 0 for 4 when he was over 16 facing Nolan. So the idea out there, kids, when we're playing this game, worry about yourself. Don't worry about the person next to you. You take care of yourself the best you can. Do the things that you can do, and in most cases, it's all going to be good and it's going to work out for you. But I'd like to congratulate the men and women in this room for their awards and what they've been able to do and accomplish. And we talk about grade point average. I'm not so sure about you, Steve. I know me and Sarah, we ain't having that conversation.
I can't even spell it.
But it's pretty cool. So, you know, the idea of everybody like in this room is here for you guys. Our student athletes, our scholars. And on your travels, as you go further in life, if everybody you can run into, you can take something from them, a nugget or two, it's cool. And I wrote down 2 things right now. A minute to make a moment from Steve over there, I think is awesome. And it really doesn't take a minute. It doesn't. It could take 10 seconds to make a moment in the right situation. And I think that was money. And then from Stairsy, don't burn down your house. Well, those are the 2 nuggets I took today.
Hey, for some reason they were pissed off. I don't understand.
I can tell you right now, I feel like a better human. I'll do the same thing that Stairsy did and open it up for a few. I know the night's getting a little bit late and we can be pretty quick with this, and I'll try to be quick. Yes, sir.
I wouldn't say it's total luck, but for your brother to do that, he really had to take care of his body because injuries, I mean, all you need is injury to do that.
Is that podcast still going?
What did he do?
Because I'm going to try to answer this, but I don't want that podcast on. I mean, Junior used to run on the treadmill with about 6 Bud Reds after the game. That's the only way you play 4 million games in a row.
That's not a lie, because I used to run beside him, and I had to walk and drink beer as well.
No, I tell you what, Junior was blessed with a lot of good fortune, but there were so many near misses on Junior. He was hitting his bean a couple times, hand, ankle sprain, the whole 9 yards. But the dude was an animal. And part of Senior's influence on Junior, I'll tell you this quick story about Junior, and we're all getting to the age now. Steve, you'll know what this is. A tractor crank.
Yeah.
Right? The big ass heavy metal tractor crank. So I was at the age of probably 11. Junior was 16, so I might have been 12-ish. So my dad had this thing that he wanted to take care of the neighborhood when it snowed. Your dad believed that if you take care of your neighbors when he was home in the winter, that when he was gone during spring and summer and stuff like that, the other neighbors would reciprocate and help mama out with anything. It didn't happen that way. That was Dad's thought. So Dad goes up to the farm that was in our neighborhood, big barn with a big tractor, and he's teaching Junior how to crank start a tractor with the front crank in it, because he had this big V plow made of 2x12s, heavied up with blocks and things like that he would go drag the neighborhood streets in a V pattern. So, like Junior ever needs to know how to turn a crank tractor ever, because he's got like XM radio in his and shit, and it's all air conditioning. He don't need that. Push button start. So Dad gets up there and he puts the tractor crank in, and he says, "Son, this is what you do. You pull the crank down, you let the torque of the motor bring it up. Pull the crank down, let the torque of the motor bring it up." He's giving this sermon on starting the tractor. Well, it wouldn't start. So then Senior goes, "Son, don't do this, but I'm going to windmill this thing and crank it." So he starts windmilling it, and the thing slips off the square knob or whatever and hits him right in the forehead. And Junior said it sounded like a board broke when this thing hit him in the head. So Senior had, Dad was a hard man. Senior had this trusty old snot oil rag that was always in his back pocket. And he starts putting it on his head, and Junior said he was kind of taking an 8 count. And Junior said he pulled like the rag off and his head was just split. So Junior was just starting to drive. So Dad says, come on son, get in the car. So they start going out of the neighborhood, and Junior says, I'm going to take him down to the hospital, probably to get stitched up. Senior said, pull over here. So it was the home. And he says, well, we're going to go tell Mom what happened, and then we're going to the hospital. So Senior goes in there with his snot oil rag and keeps compression on it, butterflies it up, white tape, athletic tape, the whole 9 yards, and covers this thing up. Puts his Orioles hat back on. It's wintertime snow, and his ears are bright red. He didn't wear a beanie. It was his Oriole hat. He goes, come on, son, let's go. So Junior once again says, we're going to the hospital. Senior goes, well, take a left right here. He went right back up and started the damn tractor and plowed the streets. So Junior was in this mindset when he saw this. And he goes, I witnessed something that was borderline horrific, that my father shrugged off and did what he was supposed to do. He goes, can I tell him I'm missing a day because I sprained an ankle? He goes, I don't think so. So some of that influence that Senior put on him, Junior didn't want to let down his pops in a lot of ways. And he was good enough to play every day. There's a number of managers he played for that wrote his name in the lineup. So be it, play all the games you want. When he decided to end the streak, it was on his term. He thought about it. He called me. I was home, 5:30. I wasn't playing anymore. I got the grill going, a few mixed slimmies. He goes, hey, when you watch the game today? I said, well, first of all, I ain't watching it. Okay, well, second of all, I'm not playing. I said, okay. He goes, you got anything to say? I go, did you think about it? Yeah, okay, we're good. Click, we're good. So Junior ran with it. Junior had talent. He had great fortune, but there was a toughness that Senior put into him that Junior took tenfold and just ran with it. Yes, sir.
The beautiful thing about your whole story is the process. The process on how to do it the right way. Put the work in. Put the work in, things that happen.
Yeah, Senior had a way about him that was so unique, because when you talk about, this game can get complicated at times. You know, we talk about double steals and things like that. I've had a 10-year-old coach ask me one time, how do you stop a double steal? And I said, can your catcher throw it to second base in the air? And he said, no. I said, well, you can't. We're not doing that. But I'm going to get my 10-year-old to keep throwing to second until he ultimately ends up doing that. My favorite thing that my father used to say, and I believe in it, I preach all the time, a double play to end the game. 6-4-3 double play, it's cool. 1-run lead, first and third, 1 out, you get that, boom, 6-4-3 double play, game's over. Catch, throw, catch. And it's 5 simple parts. And my father always preached, if I don't do this one, the other 4 go away and they're moot anyway. It doesn't matter. And I think we get too complicated when we're trying to do things in the youth world. You know, we got little Johnny up at home plate at 10 years old. He's facing Big Jimmy. And Big Jimmy's bringing it. Right? Little Johnny's coach, and might be his father and the third base coach, but he wants his son to do well. He goes, hey, Jimmy, keep your hands up, watch your front shoulder, watch your feet, watch your this. Strike. Because little Jimmy just forgot about everything. But see the ball and hit the ball. Dad, in a big league game, there could be a man on second and 2 outs. You walk up to home plate, there's no reason to look at the third base coach. 2 outs, man on second. But Senior would whistle. You look at him, you go, see the ball come up to home plate and hit it. That means battle. That means compete. That means it's you against them, no one's helping you. Don't worry about anything else. See the ball come up to home plate and hit it. All the drills we do, all the work we do, all the practice we do, that's fine. It's all about technique. It's all about something. But once we get on the field and on the diamond, we got to let these people go, and they got to go play. We can fix it after the game. We can talk about it before the next game. We can work on it in practice. Once the game starts, throw everything out the window. And now it's competing. It's me against you, and I'm going to be better than you today. If we just keep that mentality, I think we can go places in the right direction. Yes, sir?
If you have a
I do have one. Next. I have a famous baseball card. Clean it up, sir.
What was your dad's baseball background? You know, I know it's the Oriole way and all that, but what was his background?
My father was a catcher. Played for the semi-pro team, the Aberdeen Canners in Aberdeen, Maryland. He was the bat boy of the Aberdeen Canners when his brother Oliver and Bill played on the Aberdeen Canners. But Pops got hurt, shoulder got hurt in AAA, got as high as AAA playing as a catcher. Didn't make it any further after that. I think when he started his managing career in the minor leagues, he went his first stop. They won the D-League maybe back then, championship. He was the player manager, and they won the championship because he started catching. And they said, what a good manager is. No, I got some guys that can pitch. You didn't have any catchers here for me. So I decided to catch every day, and we righted the ship, and we went on and did some things. But hard man, no doubt about it. He played as far as he could with his injury. Was in the Oriole organization, I think, 37 years. I like to give an awful lot of credit, and I know for a fact that when he ran, when he was managing in the minor leagues, Earl Weaver was at the top with the Orioles. And there were some crusty old dudes in the minor leagues. And I know Senior was in charge, basically, of that crusty old group. And when guys would come through the big leagues, or come to the big leagues for Earl Weaver, every one of those dudes from yesteryear, when you were talking about Jim Palmer and Mike Flanagan and Doug DeCinces and Al Bumbry, Bobby Gritch, they all came through and touched Senior at some time. And I truly believe that that run that the Orioles were on back in the day when Earl had some really good teams, those dudes were coming through these crusty old dudes in the minor leagues. And it wasn't to get to the big leagues the fastest. It was like these dudes were lock and stock. I remember the last 3 years of Dad managing in Nashville, North Carolina. I was 7, 8, and 9 years old. I'm sitting there and I'm watching. These guys didn't leave. You know, they came to play a full season under Senior. And his ability to understand what they wanted at the big league level. Because back in the day, the Orioles had a couple lists. They had guys that could play in the big leagues. They had guys that couldn't. And they had guys that could play in the big leagues for the Orioles. And they didn't mind if they let somebody go or made a decision on somebody that could play in the big leagues. But if they weren't part of what they believed in that Oriole way, they're a part of us, then they were okay. And a lot of that had to do with the reports of those crusty dudes, you know, down there in the minor leagues doing those things. So I marvel, I really am truly amazed. I might be a little biased. I met a lot of baseball people. I've never met anybody like my father that could help as many different people on the field with his knowledge and his no-nonsense type simple approach. So you got a left-hand hitting Al Bumbry in center field, you got a switch hitting first baseman Eddie Murray, you got Junior playing short, you got Rick Dempsey behind the mound or behind the plate and Palmer on the bump. He had the ability to help every one of those guys. There might be guys out there in the baseball world that know more about one specific part of the game. I'll give them that. But there's nobody I've run across yet that matched Senior's ability to be able to dissect what he saw at whatever position it was and be able to help them move on. Yes?
All you guys at the MLB Network, it doesn't matter who co-hosts the show with you. You guys all seem to get along so great. Is that something because all of you guys have?
No.
Now we both know.
I've always related everything that I do in life to the baseball arena. And I think these gentlemen can agree with me on this one. When you're in baseball, you got 25 players in the locker room, 5 or 6 coaches in the locker room, some trainers, and everything else. Anytime you put 30, 35 people in one area, the dynamics are exactly the same. as they were in that clubhouse. And you could sit there and look around and you can go, yep, I can go have some swimmies with him. Not him. I could deal with him from 7 to 9:30. That's about it. I want no part of that ever. 30 people, 35 people in one dynamic, it's the same. And I think what you do see though, it is very, the culture that was built at the very beginning with former players and, you know, with Plesac and Al Leiter, my age group, Harold Reynolds, my age group. I think we were the ones that started off a little bit more than everybody else. Now there's a little bit more younger guys coming in and doing things, but the dynamic of the locker room and that group of people, I think it holds true no matter what you do. And since I lived it basically my whole life, including when I was 7, 8, and 9 years old, being in those locker rooms in AA, following Pops around and being the bat boy, it's the same thing that I saw then when I was 9, what I can remember to what I see now. Yes, sir?
My question is, in your lifetime and in tonight's speech, all you've talked about is senior and junior. You personally have been one of the 1% that has made it to the major leagues. How have you remained so humble?
Well, I think I'm real. I think what Stairsy talked about, know thyself. My first half of my career, I played a lot. Maybe it was some of the teams that I was on. Maybe I shouldn't have. The second half of my career, I was a utility guy. I knew the things that I could do. But I talk about the roster spots. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and throw a big old party for me that I was the 23rd or 24th guy, 25th guy on every team that I basically was on. I had a few good moments from time to time. Took a few people deep that I probably shouldn't have taken deep. Got 4 hits in a game when my brother only got 3 because we had 7 as brothers. I had more. So then later, you know, he had 3 homers in a game and I only hit 1, so we had 4 as brothers in a game. But I think I was real. I knew what I could do on a baseball field, but I also knew where I came from and what I had to do it. And yeah, I was part of 1%. And that's pretty damn cool. I'm not shying away from that. But I'd much rather talk about, you know, what my father was able to do with me and for me than anything else, because I don't know if I'd have been part of the 1% if I didn't have that dude.
I think the point I'm trying to make is the younger people that are in the room who might look at the other people that are like better than them, and they might sit back and say, well, they're just better.
Here's the thing too, with the players out there, stay on the chairlift. I talked about little Johnny, Big Jimmy and everything else. I love being at our tournament destinations, and I got a parent come up to me and say, my son's going to be the next Mike Trout. I go, stop. You're not only targeting the 1% that play in the big leagues, you're targeting the one of the 1%. That's not fair, that's not real. You need to get a grip, check yourself, and stop saying ridiculous things like that. The chairlift that I'm talking about is in those youth tournaments, the 12-year-old age group, when you see Big Johnny on the bump, and little Jimmy won't punch out. Little Jimmy's battling. I want to keep watching little Jimmy, because Johnny out there sometimes gets off the chairlift and starts sliding down the mountain. And little Jimmy doesn't have to make big jumps. But if you stay on the chairlift and keep doing this every single day, you will find that you can catch and pass people. The story of my 17 years old when I went away and played, there's 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds in rookie ball, and I was 17. I was immature mind, I was immature body, and I'm looking at these dudes and I said, I will never play. And then you got to keep going back to that, worry about yourself, son. Worry about yourself. Keep doing the things that you can do. Keep plugging away. Kick yourself in the ass. Keep going. These are all things that Senior kept saying to you during a period of time. And I found that those 22-year-olds, somewhere around A-ball, AA, I'm actually with them again, because they might have left me, and then I'm with them again, and then I'm in AAA, and I'm here, and they might be not around anymore. So if we can stay on a chairlift as a player, just keep getting better every day, a little bit every day. Just don't get off the chairlift. Don't slide down the mountain. Big Johnny's got a chance to slide. He might have peaked at 12. Little Jimmy's badly. Little Jimmy might keep going. All right, I got one more and then did you want to cut me off?
No, one more.
Why don't you let the damn buzzer go off over again? All right, one more. Who wants to be the last one? No, you cannot be the last one! You already had 3!
I'm no different.
Okay, go ahead.
I was 120. Got to Oklahoma University. Trying to go play in minor league. Got to Triple A. I was a little kid.
Little Jimmy. That's a good way to end it right there. Little Jimmy in the house. Thank you, everybody.